Welcome back. Welcome back. We're live here from Cincinnati, Ohio at 2:42 a.m. in the morning. Welcome back to the Exodus Media Network. If you come across the Exodus Media Network here on Rumble, do us a favor and please share the content. We're also available on YouTube, also available on TikTok, also available on Truth Social, also available on Instagram, also available on Facebook. Wherever you may find us, please follow us and please share the content. The content, ladies and gentlemen, is consequential information. Consequential information. And tonight, or should I say this morning, Mike, one of the things that I'm going to really talk about, I really want to go in depth on, is the whole concept of MAGA, Make America Great Again. Okay? And I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective than from what people are used to listening to, because and I gotta stop, pause here very quickly, else I'm gonna get into that, and I'm not ready to get into that, but we'll get into this whole MAGA topic here shortly. But we've experienced MAGA. We had MAGA. MAGA stands obviously for Make America Great Again, and in 2016 we got MAGA. Trump was elected. He served his 4-year term from 2016 to 2020. And so we have 4 years of MAGA. So we're going to talk about MAGA and those 4 years and what it meant to America and what it means to America going forward. But I have a twist on MAGA moving forward. And it's necessary if we're going to once again have MAGA in this country. But more importantly, if we're going to have MAGA and MAGA is going to be successful to the extent that MAGA needs to be successful. So don't go away. Stay tuned because we're going to get to MAGA. But let me start with this. Mike, our southern border is wide open. Behind me, you see the no amnesty sign. That speaks to how I feel about that. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want illegals in our country. In 3.5 years, Biden and Harris have allowed in 10 million illegals. I don't even want legals in the country. We have no use for illegals or legals right now. We allow in approximately 1.2 to 1.5 million legals. And when I say that, some people are they don't know how to respond to that because they're so used to being fed this narrative. And here's the narrative, Mike, that I'm a radical Republican conservative, a Frederick Douglass Republican. You also see him over my shoulder. But let me tell you why I say that. I don't even want legals. First of all, every year in this country, we have high school students that graduate, vocational school students that graduate, and college students that graduate, and they're looking for jobs. But if we're going to continue with this influx of illegals and legals, that's going to make it even more difficult for our young people to acquire jobs because we're allowing in legals and illegals. But what we're really doing by allowing in these illegals and legals, Mike, is we're damaging and destroying our culture. We're damaging and destroying our way of life. We are damaging the idea and concept of patriotism because, as I stated many times, these people that come here quite often, they're not patriotic. I just saw a guy that was interviewed recently, and he recently came to America legally. And he was talking about how he just wanted to come here, amass a certain amount of wealth, money, resources, and then return to his country. Okay? Today, I talked to an individual that is here, and I don't know if he's here legally or illegally, but he desires to return to his country. So we're a resource for the rest of the world. People want to come here. They don't want to assimilate. They don't want to practice patriotism, but they want to come here and they want to extract what they can extract, and then they want to return to their home country. And when we allow that, we cause our American citizens, in particular, as I just mentioned, recent high school, college, and vocational school graduates, to have to sit on the sideline waiting for their opportunity at the American dream. Because who's put ahead of them? Illegals and legals. And we have this idea in our country that America is supposed to open its arms to legals. And that's not true. Who says that they have the right to come here? See, I'm one of the few Americans that's willing to speak out and say, I don't want them here. We have approximately 350 million people here, Mike. American citizens that earn the right to be here, deserve to be here, because they are truly American citizens. But unfortunately, as you see in New York City, Chicago, and Boston, they're putting illegals ahead of American citizens. Now, you've seen in recent days, recent weeks, recent months, how blacks in New York, Chicago, and Boston are up in arms at the fact that these illegals are being put ahead of them. And they should be. But these black people, they're not going to learn their lesson, Mike, because they're going to continue to do what they've done for years. They put the Democrat Party first, and the Democrat Party puts them last. And I'm, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let you. I'm going to allow you to just see for yourself what's going on.
Look at this video here that we were able to obtain, where a massive group of Chinese nationals were being processed by Border Patrol agents. The majority of them, as you can see, are single adult men, and they hope to be granted asylum here in the United States. The majority of Chinese migrants, just like migrants from around the world, fly to Ecuador because the South American country does not require a travel visa from Chinese citizens. Now, in the first 9 months of this year, over 15,000 Chinese migrants traveled through the dangerous Darien Gap jungle in Panama.
Okay, Mike, right there, ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw is Chinese illegals lined up at our southern border waiting to cross over into our border. Now, we like to fantasize about China as being this wonderful trade partner, et cetera, et cetera. And we seem to be hooked on Chinese goods. And so I feel like many American citizens aren't alarmed when they see these Chinese illegals waiting to cross into our country. But I'm going to tell you, the reason why they're coming is because they're coming and they are positioning themselves inside of our country. They're coming on student visas. They're coming on work visas, and they're coming illegally. Now, these people have an allegiance, and it's obvious that their allegiance isn't to the United States. Their allegiance is to China. And we seem to be under the impression that, oh, they just want to come here for a better life. They're not coming here for a better life. They're coming here to plant themselves inside of our nation, to extract all resources that they can, all technology and technological information that they can, because these people have an allegiance and a patriotism towards the Chinese Communist Party. And if there are individuals here from China, whether they're here illegally or legally on an F1 or M1 visa, I don't care how they got here. I said this before, Mike. You can't tell me that the majority of them, I'm sure, are members of the Chinese Communist Party. So that means they're coming here with a specific purpose. But of the few that may not be members of the Chinese Communist Party, at the end of the day, if the Chinese Communist Party knocks on their door here in the United States and says, you work for such and such company, and that company has consequential technological information that we would like to get our hands on, you're going to have to find a way to extract that information and give it to one of our agents so that we can now have that same information and be more competitive with the United States of America. And you're going to do it or else. And they're going to do it because they are fearful not just of their lives, but also the lives of their friends and family that are back in their homeland. So it's not a hard decision for them to make once they pay that visit to their door and threaten them and tell them, you get this information or else. Ladies and gentlemen, don't kid yourselves. The Chinese, we have Iranians here on student visas. We have Russians here on visas. We have all of the bad actors, all of the people that are our enemy are here on visas. Now, Mike, what type of country? We can't be very bright if we're going to allow countless people here, and we know that they're bad actors. We know that their government is anti-American. And we know, for example, as far as Iran is concerned, they make it clear every day that their one objective is to destroy Israel and the United States. And speaking of Iran, don't you know that Iran is on the verge of having a nuclear weapon? Now, here's what our politicians don't seem to understand. While they're not supporting Israel in their fight against Hamas and Hezbollah, who are backed by Iran, it's time to stop fighting Hamas and Hezbollah. They're minor actors. Yes, they are deadly. We saw the death and the destruction that took place on October the 7th. But in the grand scheme of things, they're minor actors. So we need to go to the head and cut the head of the snake off. And the head of the snake in the Middle East is Iran. They're the ones that are funding all of the bad actors and the bad entities across the Middle East. But for some reason, some of our senators on both sides of the aisle are afraid and unwilling to go after Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, if the United States of America can't go into Iran tomorrow and strategically destroy everything nuclear, then we may as well give up and surrender right now. Because let me explain this to you. Once they get their hands on the bomb, it's a new game. And the game is over. And they're going to use it because these are religious radicals. They believe that they are rewarded if they die by attacking their so-called enemy, the infidel. And we to them are the infidel. Israel to them are the infidel. So they have broadcasted this for years, Mike, that their goal is to destroy the United States of America and Israel. So it's obvious their pursuit of the weapon is to do just that. Once they get the weapon, there's not going to be anything we can do or say. We can't threaten them with our nuclear arsenal. You want to know why? Because they're willing to die. They believe that they're rewarded if they die. So it's of no benefit. Our deterrent isn't even a deterrent at that point. It's a deterrent to Russia because Russia wants to continue on. They want to exist. They want to live. Russians do. It's a deterrent to China because the Chinese want to continue on. They want to live. They want to exist. It's a deterrent to North Korea because North Koreans want to continue on. They want to live. They want to exist. But Iranians and the radical Islamists, they don't want to continue on Earth. They don't want to continue to live here. They want to die. They want to be a religious Islamic martyr. And the only way they can get to that point is by doing what? Attacking the United States and Israel once they get their hands on the nuclear weapon, because here's what they know. They know there's going to be a response. They know that death is imminent for them, but that's what they fantasize about. That's what they desire. That's how they want to go out, because they believe that immediately ascends them to heaven. And we're sitting here every day in our country, not poking our politicians, not screaming and yelling at our politicians and telling them we have to do something about Iran now, before it's too late. Before it's too late. Now, I went off on a tangent about Iran, but it's all related. But I certainly want to get back to these illegals, because these illegals they represent death to America. Because if you allow these people in, and they're coming in and in these ridiculous numbers, they're destroying us from within. They're taking viable resources from American citizens. Now, I'm going to show you something that one of our senators said, and he's a Democrat senator, and he's ignorant, and I call him Limp Dick Durbin.
If you're an undocumented person in this country, and you can pass the physical and the required test, background test, the like, you can serve in our military, and if you do it honorably, we will make you citizens of the United States. Do we need that? Do you know what the recruiting numbers are at the Army and the Navy and the Air Force? They can't reach their quotas each month. They can't find enough people to join our military forces. And there are those who are undocumented who want the chance to serve and risk their lives for this country. Should we give them the chance? I think we should.
Mike, that's Senator Dick Durbin. Now I want to ask you a question. If you are a bad actor from China or Iran or wherever, and you want to do America harm, let's say you're the Chinese Communist Party, let's just go there, and you hear Senator Dick Durbin stand on the floor and make that statement, and the statement that he made it very clear. He's saying if illegals show up at our southern border and they illegally cross our southern border, and they then identify to America that, hey, we want to serve in the military. We're willing to serve in the military. Don't you think that a country like China and the Chinese Communist Party that is hell-bent on destroying America from within would then begin to send young men, military-aged young men, to this country so that they can then walk in and say, hey, I want to be a patriot. I want to serve in your army. That's their end. That's their opportunity to plant themselves within. Now, you're going to be in the military. You're going to learn things. You're going to learn things about our military. You're going to earn a wage. You're going to have money. That's income. That's resources. All the things that you need to sabotage America. And putting you in the military, what if some of these people, because we're just as silly, they ascend to certain levels, certain heights, generals and so on and so forth. Well, eventually, because of the way these liberals in America think, they're going to say, well, they're good American citizens. We should embrace them 100%. And they'll have no problem allowing them to ascend to high levels within our military. Now, obviously, people that ascend to the highest levels of our military get security clearances, right? And that security clearance is a clearance to access secure information, information that's consequential, information that separates us and protects us from our enemies. Correct?
Correct.
So, what if I'm sitting here figuring this out, surely the Chinese Communist Party is saying, well, this is our end. This is how we access and infiltrate the United States and their military. Now, what happens if the Chinese plan an attack on us, and there's so many Chinese that have already infiltrated our army, and they're able to cause our military to stand down in consequential areas during this attack by the Chinese Communist Party, by the Red Army? I mean, I didn't just say something that's hard to believe. That's not a stretch. That makes perfect sense. If I want to disrupt your country without having to just straight out engage you in war and fire missiles and things at you, my best bet, the safe way to do it is to plant my people inside of your country, within your government. Am I right? Within your military.
Right.
Within your consequential positions, within the positions that regulate the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. That's the perfect way to attack a country when you don't want to have to deal with the consequences of a nuclear war,
Right.
or even a high-level non-nuclear war. So, America, this whole woke agenda, this whole inclusive agenda, all of this stuff, all it does is make us vulnerable, because all these people want to do, these woke people, they want to signal to everybody that, oh, we love you, come here, we want to embrace you. That's the wrong mentality. That's the wrong mentality to have when you're dealing with people that hate you.
Right.
You can't make these people love you. You can't make these people respect you. You can't make these people patriotic. You can't make these people want to all of a sudden just do away with these bad ideas that that have been indoctrinated into their minds as it relates to destroying America. They're not just going to abandon that because you want to hug a tree and love them. That's not how this thing works. These people have been radicalized. These people have been mentally infiltrated to believe that there's only one thing that can come from this, and that's the destruction of America. And you all want to allow it. You want to allow this destruction of America because you want to be inclusive. You want to include everybody in this American experience, in this American dream. And what pisses me off is this, Mike. These people don't seem to understand that there's a lie that's told. This used to be the truth, but now it's a lie. It used to be true that we were a nation of immigrants to a degree, to a small degree.
Right.
We allowed in about 8 million people, I guess, through Ellis Island. I believe it was about 8 million people that actually came and stayed. All right.
Right.
That's a small number of people. And that happened over, I believe, a 30-year period. Biden allowed 10 million in over a 3.5 million period. That's a recipe for disaster. That's Cloward Piven. That says that you're in cahoots with the enemy and you're saying, come on in. Come on in and usurp us.
Right.
Come on in and plant yourself strategically within our country and within our borders and within our institutions and overtake us, overrun us, overthrow us, and destroy us. America didn't come easy. This thing, we worked hard for this. Whether you go back to Crispus Attucks and the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War, World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, you name it. People have fought and died for us to have what we have, the way we have it. And these people, these leftists, these Marxists, these liberals, these progressives, these Luciferians, they just want to willy-nilly give it away. Because they believe everybody has good in their heart. Let them in. They need help. They're looking for a home. They are asylum seekers. That's bullshit. If you're coming from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, you're not a damn asylum seeker. You just want to come over here and suck off this American titty. Because this American titty is abundant. Has a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When what they should be doing. See, I think these illegals are cowards. They're running from their own indigenous country because life isn't quite what they want it to be. Well, you need to stay there and make it what you want it to be. The same way we stood here and stood tall and made America what we wanted America to be.
Right.
And America is a wonderful place. America is a wonderful place. But it seems as though we're ready to give it all away. Now, you saw what Senator Dick Durbin said, right? He said he want to let these illegals come in, and if they want to join the military, then they can earn their citizenship, and we'll let them stay. So I'm going to show you where where it gets us when we decide that we want to allow in illegals or even legals or even first generation or second generation people that they still have an allegiance to where they came from, Mike.
Right.
And I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to show you.
U.S. Navy sailors are in court today accused of selling sensitive information to the Chinese government. Petty Officer Wen Hengzhao, who is also known as
Petty Officer Wing Hengzhao, however you say his name. Now, he's obviously Chinese. So he's in the U.S. Navy. He had access to secrets. So he decided as an American citizen, okay, but not far removed from his Chinese roots, that he wanted to work on the behalf of China and steal American secrets and sell them to the Chinese. This is why we no longer need to bring in people legally or illegally, because these people come here not with the idea of assimilating and becoming patriotic Americans. They come here with the idea of they still want to hold tight to the motherland, wherever they came from. They want to fly those flags here. Why are you coming here flying the flag of another nation, yet you claim you're coming here because you want to be an American? That's just lip service to get in the door and take advantage of what we have and to exploit us. They're parasites, Mike.
Thomas Zhao was arrested yesterday. He's being arraigned in federal court in downtown L.A. Among the secrets, he's accused of selling plans for a large military exercise and diagrams and blueprints for a radar system. Zhao was assigned to Naval Base Ventura County in Port Hueneme.
Mike, this is serious. Now, that's just one instance that we heard of. Mike, you know it's happening more often than that.
Oh, yeah.
And as we allow these illegals and legals in, it's going to happen more and more often. Mike, listen, I have a friend who came here legally, okay? And I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, he's not a real American. Now, he has become a citizen, but I grill his ass. I ask him serious questions because I got to find out where his mind and his heart is at. And I'm going to tell you, he, like most of these people that come legally, they just see America as an opportunity, but they don't really want to be tied to America. They don't want to really be tied to the American way. They don't want to really be tied to the idea and concept that America is great and American exceptionalism. They just come here to get what they can get. Okay, and they want to live a certain way, and they want to send money back to where they're from, and they want to live a certain way. And when they get the opportunity, if you press them on it, and you have this conversation with them, and I've had these conversations not just with the individual I'm referring to that came here legally. I've talked to many people that have come here legally, and I'm telling you, once you get below the surface, and once you dig into their hearts and minds, they are not patriotic. They do not feel as though America is their country. They don't have a title. And it's not that we're not making them comfortable. No, we've opened our arms to these people. We've embraced these people. But I'm telling you, they already come here knowing that they're not here to identify with America and assimilate into America, being an American and Americanism. See, that's the key, Americanism. That's what they're not coming here latching on to is Americanism, because when you come here and you latch on to Americanism, you forget about the homeland. You no longer want to fly that flag. You understand? And that's the problem that we have right now. We're bringing in these people that we should not be bringing in. But I'm going to get back to New York City, Chicago, and Boston. I'm going to show you a video here of what's happening in Chicago. These black folks are up in arms. But you know, Mike, I've been telling black folks for years about these illegals and the fact that they're allowing these illegals in. They're here to replace them because white liberal Democrats are tired of relying upon the black vote, because the black vote is too costly. It's too expensive. It comes with too hefty of a price. That's the reason why these white liberal Democrats created the concept of, check this out, Mike, people of color. That's a scam. The concept people of color, because before it was just black. I've talked about this before. So in order to help wing themselves off of blacks, they got to get blacks to embrace that all people of color are just like them. They're not. They don't have the experience of slavery and Jim Crow that our ancestors had. So they're nothing like us. So don't go lumping these so-called people of color into this, into a whole pot with us. And it's a travesty. It's a sad thing that black people are falling for this scam, and that black people are helping themselves be replaced by buying into the concept of let them come, by buying into the concept of people of color. And now you see, what are they doing in Chicago, New York, and Boston? They're giving all these resources that have been set aside for black people in black communities to these other people of color who are moving in and taking over.
Cheryl, tonight the city of Chicago has not said if there are plans to open what they call a respite center in the former shuttered South Shore High School have been finalized. But people who live in that neighborhood made it very clear how they feel.
For city leaders who came looking for a conversation over opening the doors of a shuttered South Shore High School to migrants.
What's important is that we really establish that this is a humanitarian crisis.
Now listen, that was a female by the name of Nubia Williams. She's not black, she's Hispanic. She's in Chicago, and she's trying to force these illegals down the throats of these black people. Now, she has a position in the Chicago city government, and she was appointed a position that made her responsible basically for managing and overseeing these illegals coming in and make sure that they're accommodated and acclimated. And she's sitting there telling them black folks that were born in this country, lived in Chicago their whole lives, that they basically got to recognize that you're going to be put on the back burner for these illegals. And she's telling these black people and letting them know we don't want to hear it. We're going to accommodate these illegals at your expense, and that's that. And if you could see her, she's very smug about it. She has an attitude because she's very dismissive of these black people and the argument that they're trying to make. And they're making a legitimate argument. But let me tell you, these black people put themselves in that position because they keep voting Democrat. And it's the Democrats that have orchestrated this whole replacement theory for replacing these black Negroes with these Hispanics and other people of color. Look at all the Indians that are here. Look at all the Chinese that are here. Look at all the Hispanics are here. Those are people of color. And they're replacing us with these people every second of every day. And if you don't believe it, well, how do you account for the 10 million people that have come here in 3.5 years because of Biden and Harris? Speaking of Biden and Harris, and I'm going to get back to this video, Biden promptly appointed Harris as the border czar. You see, let me tell you, Mike, and we're going to get to this. It's called political blackface. And that's the next topic that we're going to come to. And I'm going to explain, and don't let me forget, when we go to political blackface, I'm going to explain why Biden appointed Kamala Harris, but we're going to talk about some other blackfaces. Yeah, Nubia Williams. She's the director of the Office of New Americans in Chicago. That's what they call it.
South Shore residents responded
Now
with
listen,
resounding rejection.
this is the black people. Open arms.
While this crisis may constitute an emergency for the city of Chicago, it does not constitute an emergency for the South Shore community.
Incoming.
Now, that was an alderman. Her last name is Harris, Mrs. Harris. I will give her a little bit of credit because she did not back and support Brandon Johnson when he was running for mayor. And she's there speaking out against Brandon Johnson and everybody else trying to force these illegals down the throats of these black people in Chicago, giving them the idea that they came up with. There's a school that's currently not being used, right? And here's what they concluded. They concluded that we're going to take this school and we're going to open it up and we're going to put these illegals, house these illegals in there. So I assume they got schools have all these classrooms, so they'll make makeshift apartments out of them and house them in there. What about all the Negroes and the veterans that's already in Chicago homeless out there cold tonight?
Right.
That wasn't a humanitarian crisis. But all of a sudden, when all these illegals start filtering over the border because Biden told them to come over the border, that's a humanitarian crisis. But you walking past all these homeless black folk and all these homeless veterans and white folk too. I'm not excluding them, but I'm saying black folk because they're doing this in these black communities.
Right.
They don't have no respect for these black people. These are Democrats that's doing this, Mike. And you know what's wrong? Well, I'll get to that. Let me finish.
Migrants have overwhelmed district police stations by the hundreds.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Hello.
But city leaders could barely eke out a word of the details about a proposed respite center at the former South Shore High School.
When it comes to the total number of people at South Shore at any given point in time, it is fluid. We'd start with 250, 500.
How could you do that without consulting us?
Now, that's a little old black lady. She said, how could you do that without consulting us? And up on the screen, I put, little old black lady, you put Democrats first, but they put you last. This black woman, that little black lady, she's standing up there and she has some papers in her hand. She done wrote down what she wanted to say because she's disgusted. She's heartbroken. And she let it be known. How can you do that to us? How can you displace us? How can you take our resources and give it to them? Why can't you take our homeless people off the street and put them in the school? And these people are screaming and yelling and crying and carrying on. And you know what? It's going to accomplish nothing. Because Brandon Johnson and the Hispanics in the administration up there in Chicago and the white liberals are going to make damn sure that, yeah, these Negroes get to voice their opinion, but they're not going to do nothing about it.
Right.
They're going to keep on doing as they've been doing,
right,
accommodating the illegals and keeping these Negroes at bay. That's what they're going to keep doing. And you know, unfortunately, this little old lady,
I am concerned with safety in the area.
she's gonna go right back and vote Democrat.
oh yeah,
Cause she don't know no better.
right.
The Chicago Police Department will put 24/7. 24/7.
Now that's a black wench with an attitude, rolling her head, talking about how the Chicago Police Department, they're gonna have them there 24/7 patrolling these areas where they putting these illegals. So they get 24/7 police service and protection. But you go over there to O Block, they run around killing and murdering and raping and slaughtering each other. Why don't they have 24/7 police over there?
Right.
But they're going to give 24/7 protection to these illegals. And they're going to make sure that everything stays orderly where those illegals are. Keep everything orderly in O Block and the south side of Chicago and everywhere else where it's out of order.
Right.
And they think, this old wench right here, this old black wench actually thinks that she's saying something because she's reassuring these citizens there's going to be 24/7. They don't give a shit about you having 24/7 police protection over there with them illegals.
Right.
They worry about their own damn neighborhoods and communities and streets.
Right.
Man, these people are unbelievable. This shit is crazy. You can't even make this shit up. But they did. They made it up. And they're getting away with it.
Right.
Officers at that location.
Those are exactly the kind of services Southside residents say they've begged for and been denied.
See, she said it. Those are exactly the kind of services that the South Shore residents have begged for but been denied. But now these people come in illegal, ain't paid no taxes, ain't fought in no wars, ain't served in no military, ain't got no type of allegiance to this country or nothing. And they're getting cash, they're getting Visa cards, they're getting medical cards, they're getting 24/7 police service and protection. Come on, man. And these Negroes are so stupid. They're going Chicago, New York, Boston, please hear me, and everywhere in between. If you're black and you're voting Democrat, this is what they're doing to you all across America. And you're stupid. And you're going to go right back on the first Tuesday in November and you're going to vote for these sons of bitches.
Every homeless immigrant that you bring in, that you scoop up one of the homeless individuals in our community, I think that would be fair.
Now listen. Did you hear that, Mike? Let me show you how sad and pathetic. If this woman ever hears this podcast, and she'll recognize her voice and her statement. Lady, let me explain something to you. I'm sorry. And I don't know how this is going to come off. This might or it might not be brutal. But here's the deal. Your statement was pathetic because you said, be fair. If you house one of them, then house one of our homeless. Tit for tat is what she's asking for. Right. Lady, they shouldn't even be here. Let's say they're going to house 500. And you're asking them, well, house 250 of them and 250 of us. I have a better idea. Why not send all those sons of bitches back and house 500 of us? Doesn't that sound like a better idea? Because they have an indigenous country that they can return to. Right. With family and friends, and they can and will be housed. Hell, they left houses to come here. Right. And I'm sure they didn't just get them houses up. It's friends and family staying in those houses. Right. And you're sitting up here just begging these Democrats, well, if you house one of them, then house one of us. That's your solution? That's not a solution, because that allows him to remain here and compete with you for limited resources. And check it out. That's a perfect example. They're competing for housing, limited resources, and you're willing to give them half of the housing and you take half of the housing, and they're not even citizens. That's pure stupidity. You've got a childlike thought process going on in these urban core areas as it relates to these black Democrat voters. Mike, man, you can't make this up. It's disgusting and it's sad.
Tonight, we also learned that a field house in the city's North Avondale neighborhood will also close to the public temporarily because they plan to turn that into a respite center as well.
They just got another location that they taking from these Negroes that they're going to hand over to these illegals. She going to say something else. Listen to this.
Now, this surge of migrants into the city of Chicago comes on the heels of Brandon Johnson.
And the whole had the nerve to call them surge of migrants. They're not migrants, Liz. Her name is Liz. They're not migrants, they're illegals. Migrants come legally and by the rule of law and by invitation. They're not migrants, they're illegals, Liz.
The administration handover, and today we caught up with him at two separate events. He refused to answer questions about.
You heard that, didn't you? They caught up with Black Mayor Brandon Johnson and he refused to answer questions. You know why? Because they're going to ask him, what are you going to do? And he doesn't want to answer that question because we know what the answer is. I'm going to keep on housing and taking care of these illegals, and you Negroes stay on over there out in the cold and hungry and starving, and et cetera, and don't worry about shit. Man, this is amazing what they're able to get away with. It is absolutely amazing what these people are able to get away with, and they're only able to get away with it because Black people are so dedicated and sold out for the Democrat Party, who has done nothing for them, has done nothing for them but mislead them, lie to them, and give them the false perception that they're here to help. And they have never helped. Remember, this is the party responsible for slavery, the KKK, Jim Crow, lynching, and all of that. And now they're continuing to practice all of those things just in a different way. In a 2024 way, in a way to where in a manner that doesn't allow them to be held accountable because Black people are too blind to even see what's actually been done to them. Right. And so they'll continue to line up and run out to the polls. Mike, this is kind of, I threw this in here. It's a little something because we're going to stay on the heavy stuff. And next we're going to move on to political blackface. But before we do that, are you familiar with the Kountry Wayne skits on Facebook? Kountry Wayne is this comedian, okay? Black comedian. And he's become famous by doing these skits. And he's made a lot of money by doing these skits. And these skits have developed storylines. And so these storylines are continuing on out for months and even years. But they have these skits and they follow these storylines. But let me tell you how Wayne presented himself to us, okay? Kountry Wayne, he spells country with a K, right, presented himself to us under the premise of Jesus is popping. Right. Okay. First of all, Jesus is not popping. Jesus wouldn't be popping. Jesus wouldn't approve of popping. Jesus wouldn't condone popping. And Jesus doesn't want you to refer to him as popping. So that's his first mistake. And I think it's blasphemous. Because what you do with Jesus is you cheapen him. Right. You make him hood. Right. By saying Jesus is popping. And Jesus certainly ain't hood. You take away the respect that's due to Jesus by using this slang language and stuff when you're referring to Jesus. Jesus is popping. What does that mean? Because the last time I've been familiar with the term popping in the hood, it was coochie popping. And what the girls do at the strip clubs, or they do it out in the street now. They get out there, they turn on the loud music and the bass, hear the bass, they stand next to the cars with the music bumping and they pop their coochies. Right. That's what that come from. Right. And now you're saying Jesus is popping. And here's my problem with that, beyond what I've already stated. These skits, and he claimed that he was promoting Jesus. How can you promote Jesus by saying Jesus is popping? And how can you promote Jesus in your skits, your Jesus is popping skits, when your skits are all about, now they're all about casual sex, homosexuality, sodomy, transgenders. Now he's putting transgenders in the skits. He's putting homosexuals in the skits. He's portraying transgenders and homosexuals in a positive light. Everybody in the skits, in the storylines, are very accepting of the transgenders and the homosexuals. So you see, the left has used him, and he's allowing himself to be used by the left to push this Luciferian demonic agenda, sodomite agenda. This Luciferian demonic transgender agenda. In the name of Jesus is what he's doing. He's promoting all that in the name of Jesus because it's called Jesus is popping. And you see him and others wearing the chains, and the chain says Jesus is popping. Got this bling bling on, talking about Jesus is popping. Jesus ain't about no bling bling. Right. And he certainly ain't about no sodomy and sodomites and transgenders. Right. But I'm going to show you a little short clip from the Country Wayne skits, just so if you're not familiar with it, you can get an idea. And in this particular skit, they deal with homosexuality. And once again, they portray it in a positive way.
I want to let you all know something that I've been keeping from y'all for a long time. I'm gay. So,
I just want to say I'm thankful for, like my dad said, life in general. You know, I'm just saying, I'm just here, I'm alive, you know what I'm saying? And
let me stop for a minute. So the gentleman in the red, they're having a family get together. And in this family get together, it's all men. It's about 5 or 6 of them, something like that. And everybody's just saying what they're thankful for and kind of sharing with everybody else some personal things. Just an opportunity for men to bond and talk and be honest in their conversation. And this particular cousin reveals that he's gay. And the way the skit goes is, you know, that nobody's shocked because they all say, well, we've been knowing that. He didn't think anybody knew. And they said, well, it was obvious. Right. Let me go back.
Wait, I said I'm gay. We was here, we heard you.
Yeah, I think we all heard you.
We heard you, yeah. Good stuff. Oh, okay, yeah. Y'all ain't got anything to say about it. What about it? We all knew. Jordan, you knew? Yeah. Probably. Yeah. You knew? We all knew? I mean, I think I found out first. Because I found out when, because I ain't never really see you with a woman. And then, that's a telltale sign right there.
Listen, man. That's their lighthearted way. See, the devil is clever. Let me show you how clever the devil is. The devil propped Country Wayne up. The devil put the idea in Country Wayne's mind. Jesus is popping. The devil put the idea in Country Wayne's mind to not just to do these skits and do them under the banner of Jesus is popping, but then let's wear Jesus is popping in the form of bling bling. Then the devil put in his mind, you know what, Country? Not only are you going to say Jesus is popping and you're going to use that as your to pull people in, it's to pull Christians in. This is why Satan put that in Country Wayne's heart and mind, is to deceive Christians and would-be Christians into embracing the sodomite culture and transgenderism. So, and the whole bling bling and all this casual, crazy sex, because everybody in the skits is sleeping with everybody. All the guys have slept with all the girls, and all the girls have slept with all the guys. And so at any given time, if you see this particular guy in the skit and he's with his girl, a few other guys in the skit done slept with her. So it's an orgy. Mm-hmm. It's really an orgy. So Country Wayne doesn't understand, and all these millions of people that are supporting him don't understand that while you may be entertained by this, Satan gave Country Wayne the idea to do these skits because Satan wanted to promote the things that have been destroying the black community. violence, bling bling, uh, 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 being in love with bling bling, sodomite activity, and transgenderism. That's what these skits promote in the name of Jesus. It's a shame that Satan was able to use Country Wayne to promote what I call, and I coined this phrase, this term, 3D culture, which means death, destruction, and debauchery. He's used Country Wayne to promote that, to continue to destroy and dismantle the Black community. Now, these are people that, now let me make this clear. When you watch these skits, another common thing that you're going to see in the skits, everything's about black this, black that. Black is great, black is good, black. Well, they don't even know that they're destroying Black because they're immersing Black into this bling bling and this sodomite activity and this transgender activity and all the other filth that comes in these skits. But let me tell you what Country Wayne isn't going to do. He's not going to reverse course. He's not going to do away with Jesus is popping, because that phrase has made him a lot of money. Right. He's not going to turn his back on the transgenders, the sodomites, or all this indecent activity that you see embodied in his skits, and make it truly a skit that would truly reflect something wholesome, something Judeo-Christian, right, something beneficial to our kids. You know why he's not going to do that? Because everybody that has now began to do business with him, including all of the actors that participate, they would drop him like a hot potato. They don't want to be a part of that. And it's unfortunate, Mike. It's unfortunate. Now, Mike, we're going to move on to political blackface, and this is very important because political blackface is a large reason why we are in the predicament that we're in the United States of America. It's the reason why we've fallen into this 3D culture of death, destruction, and debauchery. It's the reason why 90% of Black folk are running out here, continuing to vote Democrat, voting for their own demise, voting for their own death, voting for their own destruction, voting themselves to hell. Because that's the party that promotes Luciferianism, Marxism, socialism, liberalism, progressivism, all the isms that come from Satan. And we identifying with the Democrat Party and voting Democrat in spite of all these Luciferianisms because we believe the Republicans are racist. What's more important, identifying with Christ or being worried about who's a racist? It's more important to identify with Christ. And you can't identify with Christ if you want to identify with these Luciferian Democrats who we watch on national public television vote Christ out of their platform. And there's so many things that we can point to. This tells you that they have no interest in Christ, right, or Judeo-Christian values, or Americanism, or American exceptionalism, or anything. Right. Mike, political blackface is a very clever thing that they created. And they knew that through political blackface is a very important component of what I call the grand scheme. That's another term. And I have a whole explanation as to what the grand scheme is and all of the inner workings of the grand scheme from going back to pre-slavery to 2024. But we're not going to cover all that today. But I'm going to give you a brief, let you see this brief video where I talk about political blackface so you can get a better understanding of it. Now, let me tell you what the left does, Mike. This is so important. And as you begin to do your research, which I know you're going to do, every time they want to push forward their demonic, debaucherous, ungodly agenda, they put a blackface on it. The reason they put a blackface on it is because if their enemy, if the enemy of the Democrat, which is the enemy of the Democrat is the Republican, the conservative. The Republican, the conservative is not the enemy of the Black. They're the enemy of the Democrat. Okay? One agenda against the other agenda. But the Democrats are smart in that they put a blackface on their agenda, so when a Republican attacks the agenda, they say they're racist. You get that? You follow me? So if I were as a Democrat, and this is what they do, they've learned that if they want to protect their agenda, they just put a black person out in front of it. So when the Republicans attack the agenda, they don't say, oh, look at them attacking our agenda. They're attacking black. And then they call them a racist. And then they put it on CNN 100 million times every day. Mike, the left is clever. Lucifer is clever. We see all through the scriptures where Lucifer was clever. And the left is Lucifer, manifested into a political party, right, which is the Democrats. Right. And the Democrats are quite clever. If you don't think the Democrats are clever, they've convinced people to now marry men and men and women in their churches. Right. If you can convince people to perform sodomite marriages in a church that says it's an abomination, you're clever. Right. They say abort these babies. They say it's a woman's choice. If you can convince somebody to kill their seed and call it a choice, you are clever. They're clever because they got that cleverness firsthand from Lucifer. Right. They're quite clever. Political blackface, they created that, and what they've created is very clever. They figured out that whatever agenda they have that they want to push forward in this country, just put a blackface out in front of it. Right. Typically a black female. And you can be successful in pushing that agenda forward because anytime somebody attacks this agenda that's led by this black female face, they'll say, well, you're racist. They'll also say that you're a misogynist. So there's two layers of protection. Her blackness and her female genitalia. That's clever, Mike. Right. Because in today's society, you can't say nothing about or to women. They can't be held accountable, in particular black females. And you certainly don't want to give them the opportunity to call you a misogynist. So what do? You do nothing. They take the cowardly way, us conservatives, us Republicans. Instead of fighting that battle, we just run and pick another battle to fight. You don't believe me? I can prove it. All the prominent pundits on the right, so-called conservatives, so-called Republicans, have now said we're no longer going to fight against abortion. We're going to leave the first trimester alone, and that's when most of the abortions happen. Right. So you just ran from that fight. You're not willing to die on that hill. You're going to let all the babies die on that hill. Right. That's happened because these Democrats are clever and conservatives and Republicans are cowards. What else do? We now say, okay, let's just embrace the LGBTQs, the sodomites, and let them marry in our churches. You want to know why? Because we abandoned that fight too, because we're cowards. Hell, you can't even say America first anymore because conservatives have now abandoned that because whenever you say America first, they say you're racist. So every position that conservatives and Republicans take, the Democrats then come along and label that position as being racist or misogynist or something, xenophobic. And what do Republicans do? They promptly abandon that position, that fight. Right. Mike, can you win a battle if you're constantly in retreat? Nope. The Republican Party is constantly in retreat, and they're retreating to the point to where all of their values and principles that they're abandoning is going to now lead them to be identified as Democrats. Because it's our values and our principles that we were championing and standing for that separated us from being Democrats. Right. So if we abandon all the things that says we're not Democrats, then in effect we become Democrats. Right. And we're embracing all of the things that we used to stand against. Now we stand forward.
Right.
Well, Mike, I'm going to tell you, political blackface, and I'm going to get through this, and then I'm going to hit MAGA, and we're going to be out of here real soon. Eric Mann created the National School for Strategic Organizing. Eric Mann is a Jewish, white male, liberal leftist, Democrat, who created this school to recruit, to identify and then recruit black females to come in and play the role of the political blackface. Okay?
Right.
And he's successfully doing it. And then they get these women, they put them out there, they bankroll them, and they put them in prominent positions of power, and then they take their demonic agenda and they hand it off to these black women and run with it. They actually got a school where they identify women and then they train them, and it's quite clever. You don't have to go out to this school in California, because now the school, due to funding, the school is packaged in this agenda, then it's distributed through the National Education Association across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a little packet. You get this packet via Eric Mann and his National School for Strategic Organizing and the National Education Association, and they drop it on the desk of certain individuals, certain black females and a few black males. And it's a training manual teaching them how to be the black face, the political black face of the Democrat Party, so that the Democrat Party can push forward their Luciferian demonic agenda. Now I'm going to name off some women, and I can name, if I took the time, I could provide you with 500 black female political black faces that are out here pushing forward the left's agenda. Kamala Harris, that's obvious. She's the vice president. She's not really black, but she identifies as black. She's really Indian, one half Indian, 1/4 white, and 1/4 black. That doesn't make her black, but they're selling her off to us as though she's black. Right. Susan Rice, she worked in Obama's administration. She also worked in Biden's administration, and she was the director of domestic policy for Biden. That means that she oversaw this Luciferian thing on a domestic level, to make sure that all of its tentacles were evenly distributed all throughout our culture and our society in order to immerse us in this Luciferian leftist thing. Right. Ketanji Brown, they placed another one on the Supreme Court. They had to make sure that they had the Supreme Court covered, so she's placed on there. Then they took LaFonza Butler, who is a LGBTQ individual, and they appointed her to replace Senator Dianne Feinstein from California when she passed away. You see how they strategically place them all throughout the government to make sure that they got this coverage, all these political black faces out here representing the Democrat Party so they can push their agenda through them. Then you have Doris Simmons Harris. Doris Simmons Harris, she lives here in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio. She's the black female individual that they use to try and stop school vouchers, that the radical left use to try and stop school vouchers in Ohio. And we know the school vouchers are the most expeditious way for these black kids to get a good education and to rise up out of poverty. But remember, these are agents of Satan. Right. Satan is clever. And he's so clever that he done convinced black people to do everything they can to hold black people back. Right. Because every black female I named up here is guilty of holding black people back. We know what Kamala Harris did with black men in California and black male prisoners in California. We know what Susan Rice has done pushing this whole agenda and how it hurts the black community. And let's move on. Shalonda Young, I think it's Shalonda Young. She's also within the Biden administration. Cecilia Rouse, she's also within the Biden administration. Karine Jean-Pierre, she's a White House press secretary that gets up and makes a damn fool of herself every time, but she's also a sodomite. Right. You see, there's a common thing that you're going to find with the vast majority of these women besides being black. Right. Most of them are sodomites. Right. Many of them are sodomites. Right. But then they're very careful. They like to pick black women that are either single or married to white men. Right. And it's not a knock against white men at all. Okay. I have a son-in-law that's white, but what they have identified with these black Democrat females, you know, they're very radical. They supposedly strong-minded, right? You know, and they're all about usurping the authority of their husband or their boyfriend. They are aggressive, and the reason why they choose these types of black women is because they want to choose black women that are either single. There's no man around. Right. She's easier to control, manipulate, and deal with. And they don't want her to have a black man around because they're afraid if that black man catches wind of the bullshit that's going on, they know he can't hold himself. He can't help himself. He's going to say something. Right. He's going to throw a fit. He's going to do something. They don't have to deal with that Negro. Right. So they would rather have a black female that's single or has a white husband. And these white husbands that these Democrat, leftist, liberal women have are always beta males. Right. They planned this thing out very strategically. Right. Marilyn Mosby, this is another one. She was the former state attorney of Baltimore. She was convicted of fraud and perjury, and I can assure you of this. If Marilyn Mosby was convicted as a Democrat in Baltimore of fraud and perjury, she done pissed somebody off in the Democrat Party, and they said, let's get rid of this Negro. Right. She's expendable. Right. Fannie Willis, district attorney down there in Fulton County. She's down there banging the employee. And then she tried to say that he wasn't an employee. This is the bride going after Trump in Georgia. Right. Then she tried to say that he wasn't an employee. I'm sorry, Fannie, you're not very intelligent. Because if you hired him to perform certain jobs for you, I don't give a damn if he is 1099. He's still your subordinate, your employee, because he serves at your will. He's a damn employee. Right. They were going on trips. There's unexplained large amounts of cash that was being exchanged and so on and so forth. And you can see recently as they were on the stand that they're just full of lies and deceit. Right. But it's coming out. And Fannie Willis is no longer, she's working on their behalf. She's going after Trump. But now that this doesn't come out, you watch the left's going to throw away and find them a new Fannie Willis. Because this Fannie Willis messed up. Letitia James, New York Attorney General, she's going after Trump. You see how they get all these black women, and they get these black women to do their bidding. They get these black women to get out here and get in front of this Democrat Party and do all of their bidding and get out here and do all of their death, destruction, and debauchery and to push that agenda. Maxine Waters, she's another one. She's been out here doing all types of devilish things. She's out here doing interviews with Megan Thee Stallion, talking about WAP, wet ass pussy. Now, what is some 90-year-old, damn near 90-year-old bride doing out here talking about WAP, wet ass pussy? WAP is a song called Wet Ass Pussy that was made by Megan Thee Stallion. That's the name of the song. I'm just telling you what the name of the song is. So then Maxine Waters, she goes and she interviews, she allows Megan Thee Stallion to interview her. And then Maxine Waters proceeds to tell Megan Thee Stallion how she loves that song and how she's so proud of her accomplishments. What are you proud of? You're proud of this young female out here talking about wet ass pussy, selling sex, selling her own sexuality. Ladies and gentlemen, it's beyond me. It is beyond me. But now, last but not least, we're going to move on to MAGA. And this is so important. And I pray that you all will disseminate this. I have to ask you, please disseminate this. Ladies and gentlemen, I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for Trump in 2020. And I'm going to vote for Trump in 2024. I subscribe to MAGA. MAGA isn't Trump. MAGA is Make America Great Again. And I think we should make it clear that MAGA isn't Trump. MAGA is an idea, a concept, an American idea, an American concept. MAGA is what we all believe in and what we all want to see manifest, and that is the manifestation of a making America great again. And America is still great, but not to the extent that it was. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have got to recognize that When Trump won in 2016, that means MAGA won. But the problem was MAGA can't stand on Trump alone, Mike. They think that MAGA just means Trump. No. MAGA is bigger than Trump. That's what we have to begin to understand. And when Trump won in 2016, we were all happy. We were all shouting MAGA from the rooftops. But see, MAGA can't manifest. America can't be made great again without action. And the action that I'm talking about isn't simply winning an election. It goes beyond winning an election. That has to be followed up with action, specific action. Now, here's the only way we are going to achieve MAGA, and I'm going to lay this out, and I'm going to make it very clear what you haven't had MAGA truly in its purest form or as it was meant to be if you don't have MAGA in the manner that I'm about to describe. MAGA is a movement to fight the Luciferian left. The reason that America is no longer great again to the extent that it was is because in this country we have allowed the left to put its tentacles into everything and to influence everything in a bad way. They've taken over academia. They've taken over the media. They've taken over the hearts and minds of our kids, and we haven't even put up a fight. And if you're going to prevent the left from continuing to force this sodomite culture on us and continuing to force this transgender culture on us and all of this stuff that we know leads to death, destruction, and debauchery, that 3D culture, MAGA has to represent more in your mind than just Trump. It can no longer just be synonymous with Trump. It has to be more synonymous with Judeo-Christian values. That's the real MAGA. The real MAGA must be led by the idea of Judeo-Christian values, the promotion of Judeo-Christian values. That's the only way you're going to ever have MAGA in this country. You've got to make MAGA synonymous with Judeo-Christian values, and that's how America becomes great again. We need a Judeo-Christian culture. We have to reestablish that. And ladies and gentlemen, let me make this abundantly clear as it relates to MAGA. Besides the fact that MAGA must be preceded and embodied in MAGA must be Judeo-Christian values, Judeo-Christian culture. But let me go beyond that. If we aren't willing to protect innocent and defenseless life, we're not MAGA. America can't be great slaughtering our babies.
Right.
And we can't absolve ourselves of the responsibility of saving these babies by saying it's a states' rights issue and by allowing the United States Supreme Court to push this issue to the states.
Right.
Life is not debatable.
Right.
Life can't, you can't take politicians and allow politicians or even the electorate to say that we're going to allow the indiscriminate murdering of our innocent and defenseless babies.
Right.
The Bill of Rights says the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, and it says life first for a reason. God gave these babies the right to life.
Right.
Not man, and he should not and does not have the right to take it away.
Right.
And you are a coward pundit, you are a coward conservative, you are a coward Republican. If you're going to stand around and say, well, it's a states' rights issue, then obviously you're not familiar with the Bill of Rights. Because the Bill of Rights said the right to life. So don't you ever, ever, ever think, America, that you can be off the hook as it relates to these babies. We have to outlaw abortion 100%, period. And it has to come from the federal government on down, and it cannot be left to the states, because states like California and New York and Illinois will absolutely be in favor of allowing abortions in America to continue. And you cannot have the wholesale slaughtering of your innocent, defenseless children and think that you're going to be MAGA.
Right.
You can't be great again if you're going to allow these babies to be slaughtered. And remember, America Mike was great prior to Roe v. Wade allowing babies to be slaughtered. If you want, people say, well, when was America great? I can certainly tell you it was pre-1972. Right. I would argue that America ceased to be great as we entered into the early 60s with this whole laissez-faire, love, free love, beatnik attitude, as that became prominent and prevalent and took over the hearts and minds of people. Right. So if you go back to the 50s, that's when America was great, because you didn't have all this indiscriminate wholesale murdering of babies. Right. When was America great? When we resisted the sodomite culture and the transgenders. Go back to the 50s, right, when that was absolutely unacceptable. Right. Go back to the 50s when that was considered to be a mental disposition. Right. That's when America was great. And if America's going to be great again, we have got to abandon abortion and this whole sodomite culture. And we can't be great again if we don't abandon that, but nobody has a spine to fight against that. You know why? Because everybody's so afraid of the left. Nobody wants to be called homophobic. Nobody wants to be called misogynist. Nobody wants to be called a xenophobe. And they have all these names that they assign to you so-called conservatives and Republicans. I'm a real one, a real conservative and Republican. Because I'm proud to be anti-sodomite. I'm proud to be anti-transgender. I'm proud to be against abortion, 100%. And that's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. And as long as you continue to identify with this whole concept of environmentalism, America can't be great again if we're going to be environmentalists. Because the environmentalists, these leftist environmentalists, are saying we got to have electric cars. We have to abandon fossil fuels. This country cannot sustain itself and cannot be the leader of the free world if we're going to turn our back on fossil fuels and abandon fossil fuels. The energy, Mike, is what has made us a superpower. Energy, Mike, is what has allowed all these advancements that has, and we've been able to share all these advancements in medicine, technology, and all this with the rest of the world because of energy. Right. We have an abundance of fossil fuel, and we should absolutely use it, and the earth is going to be just fine. Don't believe the lie. We have to reestablish the patriarchy. You got all these beta males wanting to stand behind the woman and let the woman lead, and the woman this and the woman that. No. It's about the patriarchy first and foremost. Right. Well, just keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you're deceiving yourself and you're misleading others if you think that you're MAGA and you're not representing and standing for everything that I just outlined. You're living a MAGA lie. You're living a MAGA lie if you think that America is going to be great again or can be great again if you're going to continue to kill these babies, identify with these sodomites, identify with this radical environmentalism. America will never be MAGA again if you think you can conveniently ignore these things. Not going to happen. You're deceiving yourself. You're living a MAGA lie. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, and please don't forget, disseminate this.